mortal is summoned by a goddess, making her fall for him in seconds, then starts leveling up with push-ups, becoming stronger than the gods. Seiya is your typical coward guy who's afraid of everything, even a slime. But there's a reason why. 100 years ago, Seiya was summoned to save Giabrand. He was called by the goddess Ariadoa to rescue a B-ranked world called Exphoria. During that time, Seiya was kind of reckless and didn't pay much attention to training. This got him in trouble, and his buddies in the party, Princess Tiana and Colt, had to warn him. But even though things were tough, Seiya and his crew managed to win battles due to him being overpowered. But then, just when they were celebrating their big victory over the Demon Lord, something terrible happened. The Demon Lord sneak attacked Colt and hurt him really bad with his tongue. They didn't know the Demon Lord had a secret. It had 2 lives, and the heroes had only taken 1. And then, it swallowed up Ariadoa to get its strength back. Seiya knew things were looking super bad, and he told Tiana to run away. But the Demon Lord went after her first and said she was carrying Seiya's baby, but the Demon Lord didn't care. It killed Tiana and the baby right in front of Seiya before taking him out too. After that, Seiya lost all his memories, but the hurt and sadness of not being able to save the people he loved was carved deep into his soul. 100 years later, we see the Divine Realm, a place inhabited by numerous gods. Here, a significant ceremony is underway to select a god or goddess who will be responsible for saving one of the countless worlds. In the vast expanse of countless worlds, there exists a recurring phenomenon where a demon lord emerges with the sole intention of conquering and ultimately obliterating the world. That is why a deity is assigned to each world, tasked with saving it by summoning a hero chosen from their selection. Furthermore, each world is classified according to the level of difficulty required to rescue it, with rank S representing the highest difficulty level. As we turn our attention back to the ceremony, we find that the chosen one is none other than Rista, the healing goddess. Rista is a charming blonde girl, but she is still relatively inexperienced when it comes to the task of saving worlds. Having been born in the Divine Realm approximately a century ago, she has only managed to save 5 worlds, which is a relatively smaller number compared to other more seasoned gods who have saved a greater quantity. Adding to the challenges, the world she needs to save is of rank S difficulty, making it clear that luck is not exactly in her favor. All of this is causing her to feel nervous. She starts searching through the records of hero candidates from Japan. Since stories about being transported to other worlds are quite common, the heroes from Japan easily grasp the situation. However, she must seek out an individual who possesses formidable qualities, such as strength and immense power. She dedicates hours to this task, but just as she is on the verge of giving up, she accidentally falls out of her chair, creating quite a commotion. In the midst of chaos, the perfect candidate's record is tarnished. Despite being at level 1, this candidate possesses exceptional specifications and statistics. Feeling pleased with her decision, she decides to summon him. The candidate is a handsome individual named Seiya. Afterward, Rista, whom we will refer to as Rista for simplicity's sake, quickly becomes enamored with the captivating allure of our hero. Her imagination begins to soar, only to be abruptly halted by the realization that a romantic relationship between humans and goddesses is not possible. With determination, she decides to focus and confidently introduces herself as the goddess who summoned him to save the world of Giabrand. After she explained that he would confront the Demon Lord, she hoped that, as a goddess, he would express admiration or astonishment. However, he appeared to be largely indifferent to her words. He insulted her by calling her weird, which caused her to become quite angry. She was on the verge of retaliating. However, she reminded herself of her divine nature and realized that she should not lower herself to interact with mere mortals. As a result, she was able to regain her composure. She insisted that she had summoned him, but he interrupted her, pointing out that if she truly possessed divine powers, she wouldn't need to call upon him to save a world. After all, as a goddess, she inherently possessed far greater power than any mortal. Rista explains that there are rules in the realm of the gods that prevent them from interfering, as the gods have created numerous worlds for humans to thrive independently. Hence, it is only humans who have the ability to rescue and preserve the worlds inhabited by humans. After engaging in a heated argument with our hero, Seiya, for some time, she finally requests that he display his stats. Instead of responding with status, he surprises her by saying properties. In doing so, he not only reveals that he has gained new insights about himself but also assures her that he can verify the accuracy of the information she possesses. She pleads with him to use the word status instead, despite her lack of concern. He obliges, and upon seeing his status, she discloses that he is a rare hero, 1 in a million, who possesses the ability to defeat the demon lord in the world they are about to enter. Upon hearing this, he inquires about the consequences he would face if he were to perish in that particular realm. Rista explains that in the event that it happens, he will effortlessly return to the world he originated from. However, he does not appear to be completely convinced. In order to boost his morale and alleviate any uncertainties, Rista decides to open a portal to the world they are destined to rescue. When she asks Seiya to accompany her, he politely refuses, explaining that he cannot go to such a perilous world. Furthermore, she wouldn't be of much assistance in case things took a turn for the worse, as she explicitly mentioned her inability to intervene. However, due to Rista's persistent insistence, he finally agreed to go, but with one condition. This makes Rista think that he is going to ask for something. However, Seiya's actions were limited to removing his shirt and commencing his training in order to enhance his abilities and ensure readiness for combat. It was at that moment that Rista realized that she had overlooked a crucial factor in Seiya's record: his incredibly cautious personality. Impossibly cautious. After agreeing to the plan, Rista joins the goddess of the seal, Ariadoa, also known as Aria, for a cup of tea. During their conversation, Rista expresses her frustration with Seiya's decision to prioritize training over exploring the world. Typically, other heroes would embark on the adventure with less concern. However, Aria advises her that exercising caution is important, especially in a world as challenging as Giabrand, which is classified as S difficulty. Rista argues that leveling up while fighting monsters is a more efficient use of time than considering it a waste. Aria reassures her not to be concerned about time, as it moves at a slower pace in the realm of the gods compared to other worlds. Aria suggests that she should improve the care she gives to her hero by offering more comforts in his room, such as a bath, shower, and bed. These are things that she had previously overlooked. She hurriedly goes to check on him, hoping that he hasn't starved to death. Before departing, Aria offers some advice: treat and communicate with her hero as a friend rather than a deity. Later, Rista arrives with a tray of food in Seiya's room. However, he initially declines to accept it due to his lack of trust in her. He is concerned that the food may potentially be poisoned. He insists that she eat it first in order to dispel his suspicions. Afterwards, she finally provides him with a shower, a bath, and a small bed for him to rest. Additionally, she informs him that she will provide him with meals 3 times a day by leaving them outside his room. She informs him that his workout routine will not enhance his fitness level. However, she provides him with a bell to ring when he completes his training. He grows suspicious of the bell, suspecting it to be a bomb. Rista stormed out of the room in anger. She believes that he will give up on the training and reach out to her within the next 2 or 3 days. 4 days have passed, and Seiya continues his rigorous training. Rista becomes concerned that he may have passed away, but she ultimately chooses to continue waiting as he is still consuming the food she leaves for him. Finally, after a week, Seiya rings the bell, which fills Rista with excitement as she eagerly goes to see him. Upon being greeted by an incredibly muscular dude, who appeared to possess the strength of a Super Saiyan at level 3, Rista inquired about his training progress. He proceeds to show her his stats, revealing that he achieved a remarkable feat of going from level 1 to level 15 in just 1 week, solely through consistent exercise. He even acquired some unique skills. However, due to his excessive caution, Seiya insists on maximizing his stats. She is surprised by this, but what matters is that they are now prepared to journey to Giabrand. Before departing, Seiya devises a catchphrase, "Ready perfectly." Upon their arrival, their first destination is the city of Adona. They plan to search for armor for Seiya. As she progresses, she learns that Seiya has a deep-seated lack of trust in others, always alert to potential dangers and constantly suspecting the presence of enemies. Despite disregarding Seiya's conspiracies and reprimanding him for his theories, they encounter a young girl named Nina. Although she develops an affection for Seiya, he doesn't reciprocate the same level of attention towards her. Rista asks for directions to the weapons store. After giving Seiya money to buy armor for himself, she ends up having to choose one for him. Seiya, being cautious, wants to get 3 sets of armor instead of just 1. After purchasing the armor, Seiya also bought a substantial amount of smoke bombs and medicinal herbs for future use. He then inquired with Rista about the whereabouts of monsters that they could defeat. She informs him that they have arrived in a city specifically designed for novice heroes, where they will encounter only low-level monsters. He remains unconvinced by her words. Just then, Nina interrupts them and assures them that the area is safe. She is capable of walking to the other town by herself without encountering any problems. However, if she happens to come across a monster, it will most likely be slimes. These creatures are small, blue, and have a mucus-like appearance. parents. However, Seiya remains unconvinced. The girl then presents him with a charming warding charm that she crafted herself, aiming to alleviate his fears. Initially, he is hesitant to accept the object due to his belief that it may be cursed. However, Rista intervenes and advises him against expressing his concerns in order to prevent the girl from experiencing any emotional distress. Later, Nina's father arrives to escort her away in order to avoid any further inconvenience. Afterward, they embarked on a quest to locate monsters for battle. They encounter a small slime as their first encounter. Seiya has a suspicion that the monster might not be of a low level, but Rista clarifies that slimes are generally very weak and can be easily defeated by anyone. I remain unconvinced, as he skillfully slashes it with his sword, resulting in a tremendous explosion that effectively eliminates the threat. Seiya didn't stop, even though the monster was already dead. He relentlessly attacks, employing his powerful technique Atomic Split Slash, and unleashing the fiery spell Hell's Fire to ensure the complete eradication of the slime. After he finished, Rista scolded him for the continuous attacks and mentioned that he should have utilized the scan ability to assess the slime's statistics. Seiya claims that he activated his ability before launching the attack. Despite the slime's low level and weak stats, he suspects that the information he received might be inaccurate. In an instant, Rista's senses are heightened as she detects an ominous aura. It dawns on her that Chaos Machina, one of the 4 heavenly kings serving the Demon Lord, is lurking nearby. She informs them that the Demon Lord has detected the indications of Seiya's summoning. Knowing that low-level heroes typically appear in towns without high-level monsters, she eagerly awaited their arrival in order to eliminate them. At that moment, Rista finds herself uncertain about what course of action to take. She decides to utilize her scan ability to gather more information, revealing that the demon she is facing is at level 66. She is concerned because they should not be encountering a monster of such magnitude at this point. She turns to ask Seiya what to do, but he has already begun running away in an attempt to escape. Rista, without giving it much thought, decides to follow him and scolds him for leaving her behind. Fascinated by this hero, Chaos eagerly chases after them. They find themselves on the verge of being caught by Chaos, but Seiya cleverly uses smoke bombs to create a diversion, allowing them to escape. Realizing that their best course of action is to temporarily retreat, Seiya suggests that they open a portal and return to the Divine Realm, seeking safety for the time being. Just as they were about to be caught, Seiya launched a fiery spell at Choa's, obstructing her line of sight. Meanwhile, Rista stumbled over his bag and accidentally fell on top of him. This unexpected turn of events caused both of them to inadvertently pass through the portal. After escaping from danger, he makes the decision to train and level up in order to avoid encountering any difficulties when they return to that world. He forcefully ejects Rista and instructs her to come back only when he summons her by ringing the bell. After 4 days without any communication from Seiya, Rista grows impatient and decides to use a crystal ball to check on the situation with Chaos. To her surprise, she discovers that Chaos has invaded the city of Adona and is attacking the townspeople. When she becomes aware of being watched, she warns Rista that if they don't arrive promptly, she will begin killing the citizens one by one every 10 minutes. True to her word, she follows through by taking the life of one citizen. Rista hurriedly rushes to inform Seiya about the current situation, but he politely informs her that he is not yet prepared. He inquires with Rista about the time-flow ratio in the Divine Realm. She informs him that every 10 minutes in Giabrand corresponds to 16 hours in the Divine Realm. Upon hearing this, Seiya confidently declares that there is still ample time and proceeds to continue his rigorous training. Rista attempts to intervene, but Chaos abruptly announces her intention to kill her next target, who happens to be Nina's father. Rista feels compelled to assist, but Seiya prevents her, explaining that he is not prepared yet. However, she informs him that they need to seek assistance and assures Seiya that he still has a chance of emerging victorious, as she will provide support by using recovery magic. Moreover, in the event of his demise, he will simply re-emerge in his own realm, leaving him with nothing to forfeit. There is something that the inhabitants of Adona are unable to do. Additionally, she mentions his indifference towards the girl who gifted him a protection charm. Upon hearing this, Seiya suggests that perhaps Chaos found them due to the charm. Rista is infuriated by these words, as she deeply regrets summoning a hero who displays such terrible insensitivity. However, Seiya argues that if he were to die, it would result in the demise of everyone in the city as well as the entire world. Therefore, he believes it is crucial for him to level up. Afterward, he informs her that he is prepared. When Rista examines his levels, she realizes that he has advanced from level 15 to level 21. Consequently, he is now fully equipped to combat chaos, as he has surpassed its capabilities by gaining sufficient levels. Seiya, as usual, uttered his catchphrase, and just as Rista was about to create a portal in front of chaos, he abruptly stopped her by knocking her on the head. This action prevented Chaos from seeing them and potentially causing harm to Nina's father. On the other hand, Chaos was about to defeat Nina's father when, suddenly, she noticed Seiya. Seiya stops her with his powerful wind blade attack. Rista is taken aback by the fact that Seiya has acquired a new attack. After rescuing the civilian, Seiya confronts Chaos. After reviewing his statistics and recognizing that he has reached a new level, she makes the decision to unleash her power. She swiftly pursues Seiya with her impressive physique and formidable abilities. Observing that Seiya was able to keep pace with her, she makes the decision to push herself even harder. She proceeds to stab herself with her sword, causing a massive beast to emerge from her body. Seiya was attacked by a formidable beast, but just when it seemed like he was defeated, he skillfully blocked the beast's attack. Rista attempts to determine Seiya's level, as she believes he shouldn't be capable of blocking the attack based on his stats. However, her attempts are unsuccessful, as Seiya is utilizing the fake-out skill to conceal his stats. Eventually, Rista manages to bypass this skill and discovers that Seiya's actual level is 37. To her surprise, she also realizes that he possesses impressive stats and skills. Seiya had been utilizing the fake-out skill since his initial training. Interestingly, during his first encounter with Chaos, he had the ability to defeat her effortlessly. However, he chose not to do so until he was confident in his ability to surpass her powers. He is once again displaying excessive caution in this situation. In the final moments, Seiya effortlessly vanquishes the demon with a swift and powerful strike of his sword, ultimately rescuing the city and earning the admiration and praise of all who witnessed his heroic feat. The mayor extends an invitation to them for a party as a gesture of gratitude. But, as you may already know, these things tend to unfold in a certain way, don't they? In order to ensure that Chaos had completely vanished, Seiya collected the remnants of her body and proceeded to unleash a barrage of fireballs. Despite its unnecessary nature, he held a strong belief that Chaos had a significant likelihood of regenerating. Seiya relentlessly unleashes his flame attacks, obliterating the demon completely. However, the unfortunate consequence of his actions is the destruction of a significant portion of the city. Afterwards, the mayor, with tears in his eyes, requests that they depart and never come back. Nina and her father are the only ones who express gratitude towards Seiya for rescuing them. Nina's father generously offered him some money as compensation. However, Seiya politely requests that the man provide him with all of his money, as the initial amount offered was insufficient. Rista offers an apology for their behavior, while Nina bids them farewell. While they were returning, Seiya accidentally dropped Nina's protection charm. He picks up the object and suggests that it could potentially serve as a cursed item that attracts monsters. This could actually be advantageous, as it would make it easier for him to confront and handle them without having to actively search for them. Rista acknowledges that her own words lack coherence, but she entertains the possibility that Seiya might have a softer side. She believed they were on their way to the next town, but Seiya surprised her by suggesting that they open a portal to the divine realm so that he could continue his training. Rista decides to stop arguing with him and simply accepts his request. Afterwards, Ristaughter returns to Area once again to express her dissatisfaction with Seiya's ongoing and relentless workout regimen. She mentions the difficulty of attempting to save a world ranked as S. Additionally, she expresses her aspiration to attain the esteemed status of a high-ranking goddess, much like Arya. However, Arya humbly advises her not to view her as an inspiration. Despite having successfully saved 300 worlds, there was one B-ranked world that she was unable to rescue. Surprisingly, this particular world was considered one of the simplest to save. However, as a result of her mistake, she experienced failure, which has continued to haunt her to this day. The conversation is abruptly interrupted by Seiya, who bursts into the room in search of Rista. Arya is left in a state of shock, while Rista feels a pang of jealousy, assuming that Arya has developed feelings for Rhea. However, Arya simply introduces herself to him and inquires about the reason for his presence. Seiya informs them that he has moved beyond relying solely on push-ups and squats for leveling up, much to Rista's delight. This implies that he will now focus more on battling monsters than training. However, Seiya remains unconvinced and expresses his concerns about the high level of risk involved. He requests that Rista create gym gear for him to use, but she declines, explaining that he may eventually reach a point where he will not be able to level up any further. Arya suggests that he seek out a god from the divine realm and request their guidance and training. They bring him to Cerseus, the Divine Blade, a dedicated swordsman who is always training. Cerseus apologizes, as Arya had requested him to train Seiya. He informs Seiya that his training regimen is rigorous, but Seiya displays a disrespectful attitude. However, Seiya quickly changes the dynamic by firmly stating that he will not permit Cerseus to give up halfway through the training. They start a challenging training routine. On the first day, Rista finds herself in the dining room alongside Cerseus. She inquires about Seiya's progress, and he responds that Seiya is doing well, although he still struggles to keep pace with him. On the second day, she encounters Cerseus once again. She notices that he appears slightly more anxious. When she inquires about his progress in training, he responds with anger. He informs her that Seiya has gained even more power. However, he adds that if he were able to utilize all of his abilities, he would effortlessly defeat Seiya. This revelation surprises Rista, as she had not expected Seiya to have already defeated Cerseus. On the third day, she discovers Cerseus sitting alone in a corner of the dining room, clearly feeling down. Concerned, she approaches him and inquires about what might have happened. In response, Cerseus becomes visibly upset and expresses frustration, claiming that the training is not progressing as desired. He then departs with a dejected demeanor, which raises concerns about the situation. On the fourth day, Rista brings some food to share with Cerseus, but she is unable to locate him in the dining room. While searching for ingredients in the kitchen to prepare a meal for Seiya, she stumbles upon Cerseus, who is hiding in a corner and appears to be extremely frightened. When she inquires about the situation, he proceeds to explain that he is currently hiding from Seiya due to his fear of him. Seiya has been tirelessly training him day and night, not allowing him any rest. Even though Seiya has already surpassed him in power, he still has the desire to continue training. Suddenly, Seiya discovers them and arrives to take Cerseus for additional training. However, Cerseus adamantly refuses and makes a solemn promise to never engage in sword training again. He goes so far as to throw his sword into the sea. Arya interrupts their moment, informing Rista that the great goddess Ishtar wishes to speak with her. Rista departs, leaving poor Cerseus to handle Seiya. Now, seeking the assistance of the revered deity Ishtar, she inquires about the progress of Seiya's training with Rista. Rista informs us that Cerseus has decided to give up and will no longer wield his sword. Ishtar then discloses that Cerseus was previously a human who had a weak heart. She explains that certain humans have the ability to be reborn as gods, similar to Cerseus. However, in this process, they will lose all their memories, although the emotions deeply imprinted in their souls will never fully fade away. His training with Seiya likely caused those feelings to surface. After providing a crucial explanation, Ishtar notifies Rista that they must make their way to the city of Samol. Ishtar's clairvoyance has revealed that the Demon Lord's forces are on the verge of attacking the city. She informs Rista that they will discover allies there who can assist them in their mission to rescue the world. With this information in mind, Rista sets out to find Seiya, fully determined to convince him to come along. However, when she locates him, she discovers that he is severely beating up Cerseus. Fortunately, Seiya was prepared to depart this time. Uttering his customary catchphrase before his departure, poor Cerseus is already completely traumatized. Upon their arrival in the city of Samol, they witness a distressing sight. Numerous citizens are hastily fleeing, driven by the imminent threat of an approaching army of undead. Seiya inquires from Rista about the means to vanquish the undead, to which she elucidates that the sole effective methods are employing holy water and executing fire attacks. They head to a nearby store to purchase holy water. Seiya desires to purchase 1,000 bottles, but the owner declines due to a shortage of holy water, which nearly escalates into a confrontation. Rista intervenes, resulting in them having only 10 bottles. They proceeded to the town's church, following Ishtar's advice that they would discover new allies there. However, Seiya displayed a complete lack of interest. Upon their arrival, the visitors are warmly welcomed by a priest, a nun, and 2 young descendants of the Dragonkin, who proudly bear the blood of dragons within them. Seiya suddenly poured holy water on the priest while he was introducing himself. Rista scolded him, causing the priest's skin to start peeling off. It was discovered that he was an undead infiltrator who had been sent by Deathmagla, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon Lord. The 2 allies were prepared to battle the undead, but Seiya swiftly used his super fast technique to slice up the intruder before they could even react. Rista inquires of Seiya how he was able to discern that the father was an undead. Seiya proceeds to elucidate that he employed logical deduction, as the father appeared to be the eldest among the group and would inevitably perish. Consequently, he took precautionary measures by applying holy water. He did it simply because he wanted to, and he was fortunate. The explanation is abruptly interrupted by an undead intruder, who discloses that a massive army of over 10,000 undead is advancing towards the city with the intention of annihilating it the next morning. Seiya makes the decision to eliminate him, and Rista, aware of what is about to occur, quickly pulls everyone out of the church. As expected, Seiya ends up obliterating the entire church with a powerful flame attack. Following the destruction of the church, the nun collapses in a faint. Meanwhile, two individuals, Mash and Alulu, introduce themselves as a young warrior and a small mage, respectively. Seiya also pours holy water on them as an extra precaution to ensure they are not undead, but it turns out they are normal. However, Seiya quickly dismisses them after checking their stats, stating that their low levels would not be of much help. Seiya adds that they were unable to sense that the priest was an undead, and he will eventually become a hindrance to their progress. Bash becomes infuriated by this, as he was just about to challenge Seiya in order to prove his own strength. The soldiers, who had heard the explosion, interrupted their confrontation and arrived at the scene to find the person responsible for destroying the church. The nun comes to Seiya's defense, explaining that the explosion was actually caused by the zombie father. She emphasizes the urgent danger posed by an army of undead. She mentions that they have a goddess and a hero, Seiya and Rista, who will save them. The soldiers, paying their respects, ask them to handle the undead army. Amidst these circumstances, Seiya seizes the opportunity to request a reward in exchange for his assistance to the city. The soldiers are informed by their captain that the Empire will reward them generously if they succeed in saving everyone. Seiya confidently declares that he will handle the task of dealing with all the undead creatures, asserting that he does not require assistance from anyone. He instructs Mash, Alulu, and the soldiers to remain behind and safeguard the remaining citizens. However, the young warrior is not enthusiastic about this idea and chooses not to follow orders, deciding to walk away. Seiya takes flight toward the location of the undead army using his flight ability. Before departing, he instructs Rista to wait for him at the inn, explaining that she won't be needed. With anger fueling her actions, she taps into the divine order that grants gods and goddesses additional power, enabling them to assist their heroes. In doing so, she activates her own flight ability and sprouts wings resembling those of an angel. She tries to follow him, but no matter how hard she tries, she can't catch up and soon becomes exhausted. Upon witnessing the situation, Seiya makes the decision to personally carry her, swiftly traversing through the air. However, this rapid journey results in her appearing disheveled, with her wings becoming tattered by the time they arrive at their destination. Upon witnessing the formidable army of undead, Seiya comes to the realization that the most effective approach to neutralizing the threat is through the utilization of explosives. However, Rista informs him that in that world, planes and bombs do not exist. However, Seiya confidently asserts that he has acquired a new ability, and proceeds to summon a small meteor seemingly out of nowhere. He then propels it towards the enemy, reminiscent of Madara's actions. As a natural consequence, the massive destruction effectively eradicates the undead army. Rista inquires about how he acquired the skill, to which he responds that he received a vision while undergoing training with Cerseus. However, as always, Seiya remained cautious and unleashed another meteor, obliterating the entire army and ultimately saving the entire city. He starts complaining about the spell draining his HP, but Rista realizes that Seiya didn't even use a quarter of his HP. After the successful mission and their return, Alulu informs Rista that she is unable to locate Mash. However, Rista reassures her not to worry, explaining that there is no danger for him because the undead army no longer exists. However, Rista makes the decision to ask Seiya for assistance in finding Mash. They discover Seiya in his room, completely absorbed in his research on synthesizing techniques to improve his weapons and equipment. He provides evidence by showcasing his ability to enhance a steel sword using Rista's hair, resulting in the creation of a platinum sword. She is not comfortable with the way her hair is being used, but she has to accept it. Their meeting is abruptly interrupted when a woman arrives, delivering a mysterious package specifically addressed to Seiya. There is a large mirror inside that suddenly darkens, reflecting the silhouette of a young man who is tied to a chair. The girls are terrified at first, but then they realize that it is Mash who is being tortured by Deathmagla. In addition, it was Deathmagla who sent them the mirror, a remarkable device capable of displaying images from faraway places. He intends to demonstrate his plan for revenge by killing Mash in front of them as a response to the destruction of his army. When Deathmugla was on the verge of ending Mash's life, he granted Mash the opportunity to speak his final words. Surprisingly, Mash chose to express his admiration and gratitude towards Seiya for his remarkable feat of annihilating the entire army of undead creatures all by himself. In a critical moment, as Deathmugla was on the verge of sending him to the afterlife, Seiya urgently instructed Rista to swiftly open a portal to the divine realm. Deathmugla confidently claims that Seiya's sword is incapable of reaching him. However, Seiya skillfully wields his dimension-piercing magical sword and successfully severs Deathmugla's hand, thereby buying himself additional time. Seiya enters the portal and informs Rista about the time difference, explaining that it will give them the opportunity to save Mash. However, they only have 15 minutes in their world, which is equivalent to just 10 seconds in real time, to find Mash and rescue him. Rista suggested that they go to Ishtar to ask for Mash's location, and she warned Seiya to behave. However, Seiya ignored her advice. Ishtar informed them that the rules forbade excessive human assistance. However, Seiya responded that she would only open a portal for them, just like she had done for all the other goddesses. The great goddess was convinced and subsequently revealed the whereabouts of Mash and Deathmugla to them. Seiya then requested that she open a portal directly in front of Deathmugla, and she agreed. At that moment, Seiya arrives and quickly shares his plan with Rista. He intends to engage Deathmugla while she saves Mash. Seiya immediately attacks Deathmugla, effectively preventing him from causing any more harm to Mash. Rista swiftly healed Mash, while Rya's attack proved ineffective against Deathmugla, who promptly shielded himself. Deathmugla summons a phantom fire attribute monster that is impervious to all attacks except those made with ice magic. Seiya's fire attacks proved ineffective against the monster. Just as it appeared that he might be defeated, he cleverly utilized a blunt skill with his fist to freeze the phantom. Seiya had anticipated this outcome and had prepared an amulet for this purpose. Utilizing his flame attack, he successfully vanquishes Deathmugla, the phantom monster, who had become vulnerable after losing his summon. This victory allows him to seek retribution for the harm inflicted upon Mash. Afterward, Mash recovers and recognizes Seiya's extraordinary power. He humbly requests to become Seiya's apprentice, to which Seiya replies that Mash is free to do as he pleases as long as he takes responsibility for carrying Seiya's belongings. Mash enthusiastically expresses his desire to show Seiya the dragon's den. He explains that 16 years ago, a legendary dragon from heaven transported both him and Alulu, and instructed them to join forces with a great hero. Their mission was to defeat the forces of evil and break a magical seal in order to acquire a powerful weapon. Rista was filled with excitement by the idea and enthusiastically encouraged Seiya to acquire the weapon in order to increase his power. Nevertheless, Seiya was adamant about prioritizing his training to level up before engaging in any other activities. They all journeyed to the Divine Realm, where they discovered Cerseus. He had been deeply affected by his previous encounter with Seiya and had made the decision to give up his sword and pursue the art of cooking. Seiya requested that he train Mash to enhance his sword skills, and Cerseus gladly agreed. He realized that instead of training Seiya, he would be training Mash, whom he believed he could easily overpower. Afterwards, they approached Hestiaka, the goddess of fire, and humbly asked her to impart her knowledge of fire magic to Alulu. The goddess graciously consented, affirming that it was the responsibility of the gods to aid heroes in their quest to save the world. Before proceeding, Seiya instructed Rista to locate someone who could provide training for him. In a sudden turn of events, Rista found herself colliding with none other than Valkyrie, the formidable goddess of destruction. To put it mildly, she displayed a certain level of aggression. Initially, she attempted to attack Rista, demeaning her as a third-rate goddess. However, her perspective shifted when she discovered that Rista held the responsibility of rescuing a world-ranked S. Consequently, she started expressing admiration for Rista and engaging in inappropriate physical contact. Seiya observed all of this and made the decision that Valkyrie would be the one to train him. However, Rista argued that it was impossible because Valkyrie had the ability to instantly kill anyone who spoke to her arrogantly. Unfazed, Seiya confidently approached Valkyrie and demanded that she train him, showing no signs of hesitation. Valkyrie's anger flared up, and she was on the verge of obliterating him completely. However, Arya suddenly materialized and implored Valkyrie to compose herself and spare Seiya. Arya went on to clarify that Seiya was a unique hero who had been summoned to rescue a world of the highest rank, known as an S-ranked world. Valkyrie eventually agreed to calm down, but on the condition that she could clap Arya later. After the unexpected turn of events, Arya suggests that Adenella, the goddess of war, would be the ideal trainer for Seiya. Adenella is known for her eccentricity, or rather, her significant level of craziness. Adenella agrees to train him and proceeds to demonstrate her renowned eternal sword movement. She claims that her training is extremely demanding, to the point where her body will give out before it's completed. However, despite Seiya's lack of concern, he remains determined to receive training from her. On his first day of training, Mash begins to improve his sword skills. While Rista was delivering food to Seiya, she came across Adenella sitting outside. Curious about Seiya's progress, Rista asked Adenella how the training was going. Adenella responded that it was going well, but she found Seiya's dedication amusing because he always wanted to train. Right on cue, Seiya called Adenella to come back and train. On the second day, Rista noticed Seiya and Mash conversing in the cafeteria after Seiya had departed earlier. She asked Mash what they had talked about and realized that Seiya was influencing the young warrior with his excessively cautious mindset. Later, when she brings food to Seiya, she notices that Adenella appears to be more presentable. When Rista inquires about the reason for her changed appearance, Adenella responds that she made the change because she feels self-conscious when Seiya sees her looking disheveled. However, more importantly, Rista inquires if Adenella can promptly teach Seiya the technique of the Eternal Sword since they are scheduled to depart the following day. To her surprise, Adenella informs her that Seiya has already mastered it and is considered a genius. According to her, Seiya is the only human she has ever acknowledged. Rista begins to notice some concerning signs in this situation. On the third and final day of training, Rista goes to pick up Mash and Alulu. She realizes that Mash has greatly benefited from the training, as he has leveled up significantly. However, Alulu is feeling upset because she hasn't seen any improvement in her levels. The goddess Hestiaka has informed her that she is unable to sense or harness the power of fire magic. The primary reason is that one must be born with the talent to use it, and unfortunately, Alulu does not possess that talent. Afterward, they met up with Seiya in the lobby. He had been waiting for Adenella because she had mentioned that she had something to give him. When she finally arrives, she hurriedly rushes to embrace Seiya. Everyone is surprised by her striking appearance. She has dressed up and looks absolutely beautiful. Adenella expresses her love for Seiya and requests to always be by his side. She goes as far as baking a cake with love and offering it to him. But Seiya, the emotionless brute, dismisses her gesture, claiming he doesn't understand her intentions and finds her cake repulsive. The rejection pushes Adenella into a state of madness, causing her to unleash her fury and destroy everything in her path. However, Seiya remains unfazed and calmly instructs Rista to open a portal for their departure. In the world of Giabrand, the group embarks on a journey to locate the dragon's village. During their journey, the characters come across various monsters. Seiya effortlessly defeats them using his recently acquired power to summon a phoenix, which swiftly eliminates any nearby monsters. The shorties' morale is somewhat dampened by their inability to defeat even a single monster despite their new skills. Rista attempts to read his stats, but he skillfully uses the fake out ability to prevent her from seeing them. He goes a step further and playfully pokes her eyes, adding a playful twist to their interaction. Afterward, they make their way to a dwarf store to purchase torches. As expected, Seiya expresses his desire to buy a whopping 500 torches. However, Rista intervenes and convinces him to settle for just 5. Thanks to the symbols on the Dragonkin's hands, they eventually arrive at the Dragon Den, just as they were about to open the magical seal on the door, which served as its protection. Seiya surprises everyone by using his power to attack and destroy the door. This unexpected action further diminishes the morale of the group, as they had originally planned to open the door manually. However, at the very least, the door is open. The group reaches a portal, where a mysterious voice instructs them that in order to reach the Dragon Village and acquire the powerful weapon they are seeking, they must stand within the circle. Seiya is being cautious and suspects that it might be a trap. He decides to place a lizard into the portal as his first experiment, and to his relief, the lizard returns unharmed. Upon witnessing this sight, the group proceeds to enter the portal and is warmly greeted on the other side by Lagos, a dragon man of the same race as Mash and Alulu. Lagos informs them that their leader, Levi, wishes to meet with them. As they journey, the young ones ponder why they appear different from others of their species. Lagos explains that dragonus are the offspring of dragons and humans, clarifying what they are. The dragon's appearance can vary depending on the strength of the dragon blood within them. They may resemble either a dragon or a human. In a straightforward manner, Seiya informs the children that they are dragon-human hybrids with diluted dragon blood, which unfortunately diminishes their morale even more. Upon meeting Levi, she informs them that, with the assistance of the Dragonkin, they possess the capability to overcome the Demon Lord. She grants Mash the ability to transform into a dragon at his own will, which significantly enhances his stats and abilities. Alulu desires to possess the same power as Levi, but Levi advises her that it is unnecessary as her role holds greater significance. Alulu is destined to become the weapon capable of defeating the demon lord, Ixation. In order to accomplish this, she must be willing to sacrifice her life. The heroes are shocked by this revelation, particularly Mash. Levi explains that the Demonkin have already conquered a significant portion of the world, and obtaining Ixation will only be possible once Alulu passes away. Levi even expresses her envy towards the young mage, and the other dragons also show their respect by bowing to Alulu. However, Alulu eventually comes to the realization that she must make a sacrifice in order to defeat the demon lord, and she agrees to do so. Later, Rista refused to accept this. Just as she was about to ask Seiya for guidance, she noticed that he was preoccupied with purchasing speed seeds. Rista advises him to prioritize Alulu's problem, but Seiya responds in a cold manner, stating that Alulu should embrace her true purpose. These words bring Alulu to tears, causing her to run away. During the ceremony for the sacrifice, a magnificent celebration ensues, and our heroes receive an invitation to partake in a lavish feast. Some young dragonflies offer cookies to Rista and Mash. Rista takes the cookies, but she suspects that Seiya is pressuring Mash to eat them. Then the moment arrives when Alulu must make a sacrifice. The leader of the Dragonhood clarifies that in order to acquire the magical sword, she must leap into a unique pit where her entire being will combine, giving rise to the sacred sword. This prompts Mash to attempt a daring rescue of Alulu, defying the forces of destiny. However, his efforts are thwarted by the guards, which leads Alulu to withdraw and abandon her willingness to make the sacrifice. The guards receive orders to throw her into the pit. However, Seiya unexpectedly steps in and effortlessly defeats the guards. He informs Alulu that she will not be sacrificed because she serves as his baggage carrier. However, Rista counters by arguing that if Alulu does not transform into the legendary sword, they will be unable to defeat the demon lord. However, Seiya informs her that there is no guarantee that such a weapon will be able to defeat the demon lord. Rista laughs and gracefully accepts his decision, confidently declaring that they will find an alternative solution without relying on the sword. Just as our heroes believed that everything would be fine, they were suddenly paralyzed. This unfortunate turn of events was foreseen by Levi. That is the reason why a paralyzing agent is added to the banquet food, including the cookies. Just as Alulu was about to be thrown into the pit, Seiya, looking cool and composed, stood up. He had vomited everything he had eaten beforehand as a precautionary measure. After considering the events that have transpired, Levi makes the decision to confront him, as it is necessary to fulfill Alulu's destiny. She undergoes a transformation, turning into a massive dragon and soaring towards the cliff where they were standing. She confidently declares that her scales are impenetrable, making her impervious to any harm he may attempt to inflict. Seiya confidently brandishes his sword, known as the Dragon Killer, and reveals that he had anticipated battling a dragon ever since he learned about their destination, the Dragon Den. He created it by enhancing his existing sword and incorporating strands of hair from Mash, Alulu, and 100 strands of hair from Rista, which greatly displeased her. Seiya launches an attack on Levi, dealing a substantial amount of damage. Alulu is targeted, but Seiya comes to her rescue. Levi agrees with the prediction and proceeds to activate a curse necklace worn by Alulu in order to bring about her demise. Seiya warns her to lift the curse, but when she refuses, he attacks Levi, effectively reducing her power by half. Refusing to yield, Levi harnesses her full power, forming an invincible armor made of scales. Seiya consumes the speed seed he had purchased earlier and, wielding his spare sword, initiates an attack on Levi. Although his attack is not inflicting significant damage, his objective is to hurl her into the pit. However, she quickly realizes his plan and confidently declares that she has lifted the spell by undoing her special armor. However, she deceives him by pretending to try to fly away. However, Seiya launches a powerful attack that engulfs her wings in flames, resulting in her descent into the pit. As she falls, the cursed object that Alulu had been wearing shatters into pieces. Out of the pit, a sword emerges, revealing itself to be the transformed Levi. Seiya responds by stating that now that her flesh has been transformed, only Alulu's blood is required. He cuts her, and to everyone's amazement, the sword he was wielding transforms into the legendary sacred sword, Ixation. This powerful weapon is said to be the key to defeating the Demon Lord. Seiya declares that the situation is a win-win for everyone and dismisses the idea of sacrifice. After passing through the portal, Rista notices that Mash and Alulu wish to have a private conversation regarding romantic matters. Understanding their need for privacy, she kindly suggests that they go ahead while she remains with Seiya to discuss something. Rista inquires of Seiya whether the sword that has appeared is indeed the fabled legendary one, as she is unable to detect any emanating power from it. Seiya reveals that he manipulated and improved one of his swords in front of everyone, making them believe it was the real sword. His intention was to calm everyone's nerves. Rista expresses her concern about their ability to defeat the Demon Lord using their current approach. However, Seiya assures her that he will explore alternative methods to achieve victory. He then requests Rista's promise to keep the true event secret from others. Upon reaching the exit of the Dragon's Village, they find themselves face to face with the formidable Imperial Knights of Rosegard. The leader of the Imperial Knights has requested their assistance in confronting the forces of the Demon Lord at Fort Olga, as their commander has already headed there. Our group has agreed to provide assistance. However, prior to that, the soldiers explain that they need to defeat Beelzebub, one of the allies who is leading the forces of the Demon Lord. He is a creature that possesses both human and fly-like characteristics, and he commands a vast army of flies. The group of heroes soars towards the location and discovers a colossal fortress that is overrun with thousands of flies. Upon reviewing Beelzebub's statistics, it becomes evident that his speed is exceptionally high. In addition, they observe that the captain is leading an army in an assault on the fortress. However, the flies are swiftly eliminating the soldiers by lifting them up and dropping them to the ground, much to Mash's growing anger. However, Seiya cautions against launching an attack at this time. He explains that the flies are incredibly fast, moving at speeds beyond the capabilities of the human eye to track. In light of this, engaging in a confrontation with them would be futile and would result in certain defeat. Following the tragic massacre of the soldiers, they encounter Captain Rosalie. She pays her respects to the fallen soldiers and then suggests that they resume fighting to avenge their comrades. However, they wisely advised her to regroup and develop a strategic plan before taking any further action. After agreeing, she guides them to Fort Olga, where a meeting is scheduled to discuss the next strategy against the enemy. During their journey, they discover that the Demon Lord's forces refrain from attacking the fortress due to the presence of the Grand Warmaster, who happens to be the captain's father. It is widely known that the Grand Warmaster possesses such formidable power that any attempt by the enemy to engage him would result in their swift and certain defeat. Seiya inquires why he doesn't utilize his immense power to defeat the enemy. However, one of the soldiers explains that the Warmaster is unable to leave the capital due to an undisclosed and compelling reason, leaving everyone intrigued. Before starting the meeting, Seiya takes the initiative to list all potential threats or the possibility of encountering enemies within the castle. However, despite their efforts to search, they were unable to find anything, and Captain Rosalie becomes frustrated. She firmly states that the meeting is unnecessary because she and the hero will confront the challenge on their own. Seiya agrees with them and reassures them that there is no need to worry about choosing a strategy, as he will be departing to begin his training first. Rista supports him by explaining the time difference in the Divine Realm and clarifying that they will only be absent for an hour. However, Seiya will actually be training for 3 days. Captain Rosalie is infuriated by the thought that he wants to abandon them, perceiving him as a coward. However, Seiya explains that training is necessary because he realized that he couldn't win against the flies due to their incredible speed. This realization leads Rosalie to believe that Seiya witnessed the slaughter of her soldiers without offering any assistance. Rista attempts to explain that they had intended to offer assistance, but unfortunately, they arrived too late. However, Rosalie's trust in our heroes diminishes. Rista insists that they only need to wait for 1 hour to train and expresses her heartfelt condolences for the loss of the soldiers. However, Captain Rosalie remains steadfast and explains to the goddess that the suffering endured by her soldiers is incredibly cruel, a concept that may be difficult for an immortal being like her to comprehend. Seiya interrupts her complaints and points out that she is solely responsible for the deaths of her soldiers due to her decision to launch an attack without any strategy. Rosalie's attempt to punch him is met with a swift defense from Seiya, who strongly believes in gender equality. In response, he delivers a powerful slap. Despite Rosalie's persistent attempts to hit him, Seiya refuses to give up. He skillfully blocks her attacks and retaliates, resulting in Rosalie being left with swollen cheeks that resemble those of a hamster. Seiya adamantly refuses to apologize to the stubborn Rosalie, and in response, she declares that she will take on the monster by herself. Seiya proceeded with his training as planned, showing no concern. Afterward, the group reaches the Divine Realm, where Seiya proceeds to explain the reason behind his action of slapping Rosalie. He clarifies that Rosalie's thoughtless behavior, which disregarded the potential consequences, greatly angered him. However, Seiya confidently states that he has a solution to defeat the flies. He then turns to Rista and inquires if there is a god associated with firearms or projectiles who could teach him a technique to overcome the flies. She informs him that there is no deity of that nature. Frankly, I would be astonished if such a god existed. Consequently, he is left with a choice of bows. She explains that there is one and leads him to the Divine Forest, where the goddess of archery, Midas, resides. Upon their arrival, Seiya wastes no time and directly inquires about any techniques that would allow him to shoot multiple arrows simultaneously. However, the goddess informs him that no such technique exists. The closest alternative she suggests is an attack where he shoots a single arrow, triggering a chain reaction that results in multiple arrows striking the same target. After demonstrating the technique to Seiya, he asks her to train him, despite her previous statement that it is impossible for a human to learn. However, she tells him that he must first learn to create a magic bow. If he is able to accomplish this task, she agrees to train him. Seiya approaches Ululu and requests her assistance in learning how to create a fire bow. Recognizing the challenge, Ululu confidently informs him that it will not be an easy task. Spoiler alert, he did it on the first try. Impressed by his skills, Midas decides to train him. Later, Rista encounters Cerseus, who informs her about the perilous situation Seiya is facing. Cerseus explains that Adenella's mental state has significantly worsened since Seiya rejected her. She has become increasingly unstable and obsessively threatens to harm Seiya, repeatedly expressing her desire to tear him apart. Upon making this discovery, our goddess approaches Arya to inform her about the situation. However, Arya responds calmly, reassuring her not to be concerned about Adenella. Firstly, she would not have the ability to kill a hero who is dedicated to saving the world. Even if she somehow managed to do so, the hero would undoubtedly put up a strong defense. Furthermore, she maintains a strong belief that no negative outcomes will occur. Additionally, during their time together, Arya informed Mash and Ululu that she possessed the ability to assist them in unlocking their own abilities. However, Rista expressed her disapproval, arguing that such assistance would amount to cheating. However, Arya clarifies that it is simply a training exercise, as her role is to help individuals unlock and harness the power they already possess. Afterwards, Rista pays a visit to Adenella. Upon meeting her, Rista quickly realizes that everything she had been told about Adenella was indeed true. The goddess, in a state of frenzy, begins to inquire about Seiya's whereabouts. Rista calmly responds that she has returned alone, while Seiya remains in the other world. However, Adenella remains unconvinced. When Rista approaches Seiya to inform him about Adenella's intention to harm him and suggests they should leave, Adenella discreetly trails behind her and stumbles upon Seiya's location in the Divine Forest. However, just before she pounces to finish him off, Seiya, exuding confidence, approaches her and remarks that she appears slightly disheveled. He then proceeds to gently part her hair. Despite the cruelty of his remark, the way he said it had a profound impact on the goddess, leading her to change her mind and ultimately forgive him. This is primarily due to the fact that she is still deeply in love with him. Rista was taken aback by how easily Seiya handled the situation and simply carried on with his training. Afterwards, a few days elapse and Rista decides to visit the young heroes to assess their training progress. She discovers that Mash has gained the ability to control his power, allowing him to transform any part of his body into that of a dragon. Ululu has recently acquired a new ability that grants her the power to manipulate people's perception of time. She decided to demonstrate this newfound skill by using it on Mash. First, she temporarily slowed him down, and then she swiftly sped him up again. With all the progress we've made, Rista expresses gratitude to Arya for her assistance in their training and assures her that everything will be easier from now on. She mentions that Seiya's archery training is progressing smoothly. Arya, feeling alarmed, asks if she took him to train with Midas. Rista confirms this, explaining that she is the only goddess of archery. Arya then explains that Midas is considered the most dangerous among them. This is because she takes pleasure in kidnapping summoned heroes and subjecting them to sexual consumption. It is for this reason that she resides in the forest. She also mentions that sexual relations between gods and humans are forbidden. If Seiya makes that mistake, he will be sent back to his world and won't be able to save Gyabrand. Upon this revelation, Rista is filled with urgency and quickly sprints off in search of Seiya. As she enters the forest, she notices Seiya in a precarious situation. Midas, who has bound herself to a tree, is attempting to seduce him. She implores him to free her by shooting 3 arrows. However, Seiya doesn't care about this proposition and decides to put an end to her pestering by shooting an arrow directly into her forehead. Midas becomes infuriated and decides to break free from her restraints. She then makes another attempt to seduce Seiya. When she is unable to overpower him, she redirects her attention towards Mash. Just as Mash is on the verge of losing his innocence, Seiya intervenes and captures the perverted goddess by shooting her with 5 arrows. This action effectively ends Mash's training, and Seiya confidently utters his catchphrase, "Ready perfectly." Afterwards, they proceed to confront Beelzebub and his army of flies. Upon their arrival at the fortress, they discover that Captain Rosalie had ventured forth to confront him single-handedly. Compelled to take action, they quickly rush to her rescue. As Rosalie ascends the tower, Seiya cleverly employs her as a decoy while attempting to discreetly snipe Beelzebub. However, a minor mistake, possibly caused by a bald soldier creating a disturbance, leads to Beelzebub becoming aware of their presence. Beelzebub seizes the captain and ascends into the sky, with the intention of dropping her to her demise. Seiya, having no other options, instructs Rista to act as a distraction while he launches his arrows at the enemy. At first, the fly becomes aware of the danger and decides to fly even higher in order to avoid being shot. Just as he is about to release Rosalie, Rista cleverly distracts the fly by commenting on the beauty of the day. This distraction enables Seiya to successfully shoot the fly, even though it is positioned at a height. The arrow successfully forces him to release the captain, and Rista saves her just in time before she hits the ground. In the meantime, the fly confidently declares that magical arrows won't be able to defeat Seiya, as his speed alone is more than sufficient to evade them. The fly is already aware of Seiya's shooting location. At that moment, Seiya skillfully shoots multiple arrows, effectively evading Beelzebub. However, just as the fly brags about its speed and lunges towards Seiya, it abruptly becomes aware of a gaping hole in its chest. Seiya transformed the arrows into phoenix birds, which then struck him from behind, causing a massive explosion and ultimately leading to their victory over Beelzebub. Afterward, Seiya expresses his need for Mash and Alulu's assistance in bringing happiness to others. However, he unintentionally eliminates the remaining flies, leaving poor Mash and Alulu with no tasks to fulfill. Alulu accelerates Mash, who swiftly collects the fly corpses. Once Mash finishes, Seiya proceeds to incinerate the corpses. Before Rosalie departs, she rudely informs our group of heroes about a legendary armor located in the temple near Izael village. She emphasizes that Seiya will need this armor in order to defeat the Demon Lord. Upon their arrival at the village, they are met with a devastating sight. The village has been completely destroyed. It becomes evident that a demon monster, summoned by the very dwarf shopkeeper who sold them torches, is responsible for this catastrophic event. It appears that this is another one of the 4 demon heavenly kings known as Summoner Kilkapel. He utilized the monster to acquire the legendary armor, but then proceeded to destroy it in order to prevent Seiya from utilizing it. Rista is feeling anxious because they do not possess the legendary sword or armor. While explaining, the shopkeeper acknowledges that he was unable to confront Seiya. He then enters a circle and makes a selfless sacrifice, summoning the Reaper Cross Thanatos. This sacrifice includes not only his own life but also the lives of his family and the villagers he had previously killed. This leads to an intense battle where Seiya struggles to defend himself against the overwhelmingly powerful god. However, Seiya's skills prove to be just enough as he successfully slices the god, causing him to split into 2. Seiya commands Rista to open a portal to the divine realm as a means of escape, and together they successfully evade the enemy. However, their happiness is short-lived, as Crossed, who has the ability to travel through dimensions, has followed them into the divine realm. Rista inquired whether Seiya had discovered the weakness of the Reaper, but to her surprise, he had not. They find themselves in a situation where they have to run to save their lives. Despite the relentless attacks from multiple gods, Cross proves invincible as it effortlessly regenerates and defeats each deity in turn. Even Adenella, despite her best efforts, was unable to defeat him and ultimately suffered a crushing defeat. However, Seiya had already considered this possibility, so he decides to bring Cross to Valkyrie, the goddess of destruction and the most powerful among all of them. If he were to ask her to fight the monster, she would refuse. Therefore, Seiya decides to provoke her by having the Reaper destroy a painting that Valkyrie was working on. This prompts her to begin beating Crossed. However, they soon come to realize that her attacks are also ineffective against him. Valkyrie also recognizes this and opts to employ her most formidable technique, known as Valhalla's Gate. This technique entails summoning a demonic door that effectively traps her adversaries for all eternity. Finally, the Reaper is defeated. However, this technique comes at a cost as it drains the life force of the caster, resulting in their demise. Furthermore, it is not possible for a human to utilize this technique. Consequently, Valkyrie starts to bleed excessively. Fortunately, gods are immortal, so they do not experience death. Therefore, nothing happens to her in terms of mortality. Instead, she derives pleasure from the pain that accompanies her experiences. After witnessing everything, Seiya approaches the goddess and expresses his desire for her to train him. He specifically requests that she teach him the technique she had just demonstrated. However, she explains to him that teaching that technique to a human is impossible due to the fact that it would result in their death. Seiya insists on training him and argues that they won't know if it's impossible unless they give it a try. Feeling compassion for him, Valkyrie decides to train him and instructs him to meet her in her place in 10 minutes. Everyone knows where this is going. While Mash and Alulu go off to train with Arya, it is important to note that Seiya shows Rista that he has obtained a piece of the legendary armor made from an incredibly durable material known as adamantite. Afterward, he proceeds to merge the piece with his sword, resulting in the creation of Adamantitor, the sword that is indestructible. While it may not be sufficient to vanquish the Demon Lord entirely, it can still prove to be valuable. Rista is filled with excitement and proceeds to hug Seiya, but he kindly asks her to step back due to an unpleasant odor. His kindness is truly exceptional for everyone. The embarrassed goddess decides to go take a bath. As she heads towards the baths, she comes across Cerseus, who was leaving at that moment. Taking advantage of the situation, she quickly informs Cerseus that the great goddess Ishtar is searching for her. This prevents Rista from entering the baths. Later, Ishtar informs Rista that she requires her group of heroes to travel to the capital of Giabrand. The city is on the verge of being attacked by the final Demon King, who is leading his entire army. It is crucial for them to defeat him. After expressing her thoughts, Ishtar also advises Rista to take a bath due to her vinegar-like smell. Later, Rista goes to collect Mash and Alulu, who had been training with Arya and had fully mastered their powers. Afterward, they pay a visit to Seiya, who is engaged in a unique training session with goddess Valkyrie. As a result, Rista's behavior becomes reminiscent of that of a jealous girlfriend. She confesses to Seiya that she went as far as crafting a doll out of her own hair to present to him. This revelation leaves Valkyrie feeling uneasy and prompts her to make the decision to no longer interfere with Rista's affairs. Nash and Alulu also expressed their opinion that the doll was a bit excessive. However, Seiya disregarded their concerns and decided to keep it, adding it to his collection of possessions. Rista informs them that they need to depart, but she fails to notice one important detail. Seiya hasn't uttered his catchphrase as he typically does. They make their way to the capital and are met with the sight of thousands of monsters, poised and ready to launch an attack. At that moment, Eraser Kaiser, the final Heavenly Demon King, emerges and requests that they dispatch their most powerful warrior. Just as Seiya is preparing to leave, the War Master appears and effortlessly defeats Eraser and his entire army using his extraordinary power. He accomplishes this feat without even breaking a sweat. After a battle that lasted a shorter time than Ezra Miller going without committing a crime, the King, who I forgot to mention is the King, introduces himself to our group of heroes. Suddenly, he begins to feel unwell as it is revealed that the War Master is unable to leave the fortress due to the fact that he undergoes a transformation into a baby whenever he utilizes his powers. Rosalie quickly arrives at the scene and orders the soldiers to leave. Did I mention that she is the daughter of the War Master? In any case, she explains that her father was cursed by the Demon Lord after attempting to attack him some time ago. She requests that they meet at the castle in 2 hours, and the group agrees to explore the city in the meantime. However, the city starts to celebrate its victory. Rista suggests that they go have some fun at a bar or a casino. However, Seiya dampens her excitement by declining the offer. He explains that he wants to focus on preparing to defeat the Demon Lord, as no one else seems willing to take on this important task. While strolling through the city, Seiya comes across a vendor selling healing herbs. True to form, Seiya decides to purchase 1,000 of them. Rista finds this situation frustrating because she possesses the ability to use healing magic, which is significantly more effective than relying on herbs. As a result, the vendor challenges her to a duel. In the end, Rista loses because the healing herb proves to be faster at treating wounds. In the castle, Rosalie shares her heartfelt plea with them. She urges them to kindly decline her father's request to join their mission against the Demon Lord. Rosalie explains that her father, the War Master, is gravely ill and that his time is running out. She expresses her deep desire to cherish every moment she has left with him, reminiscing on the precious memories they have shared together. Afterwards, as the group engaged in a discussion with the War Master regarding strategies to assault the Demon Lord's stronghold, Rhea had already made it clear that she would not accept any assistance from the king. In the midst of their conversation, a soldier arrived and delivered the news that survivors from the Demon Lord's army were launching an attack on the city. Seiya offers to intervene and stop them, leaving Rista alone with the War Master. The War Master expresses his desire to show her a chapel. The War Master leads her to the chapel, where the gods are worshipped. He inquires about the reason behind the gods' eternal existence, to which Rista admits her lack of knowledge on the subject. He explains that the souls of all the gods are stored in a room in the celestial world where time does not pass. When a goddess loses her physical form, she is transported to the celestial world, where she is provided with a new body. To clarify, the current soul possessed by Rista is not her true soul. However, her true soul remains secure and safeguarded. Similarly, when the heroes perish, they are transported back to their original world. Our goddess is unsettled by the words spoken by the War Master, particularly when he mentions a magical item called Chain Destruction. The situation worsens as he explains that this item has the power to completely erase the souls of both gods and heroes, preventing them from reincarnating. Additionally, the Demon Lord has forged a sword known as the God Eater, which possesses that very ability, and has graciously loaned it to him. He explains to her that upon encountering the Demon Lord quickly discerned his true intentions and recognized his deep-seated envy of not becoming a hero. As a result, the Demon Lord compelled the old man to pledge his loyalty. The War Master launches an attack on Rista, who skillfully evades his strikes with great agility. However, she is eventually captured. In her desperate situation, she cries out for Seiya. Just as he is about to take her life, our group arrives with Rosalie. She is shocked by the scene unfolding before her, but Seiya manages to save Rista just in time. When the War Master inquires about how Seiya was aware of the danger, Seiya simply replies that he had assessed all potential outcomes, as he typically does. Just as they were about to enter combat, the War Master was suddenly overcome by a wave of illness. His body weakened and deteriorated, signaling that he was on the brink of death. In the story, the protagonist ingests a demonic spirit orb bestowed upon him by the Demon Lord. This orb not only revitalizes him but also enhances his abilities, making it exceedingly difficult for Seiya to keep up. The rejuvenated protagonist, now a youthful War Master, quickly adapts to Seiya's attacks and effectively counters them. However, it is revealed that Seiya had weights on his arms, and when he removes them, he becomes significantly more agile. Removing weights always proves to be powerful. With his newly acquired agility, he successfully confronts his enemy. Rista asked Alulu to cast a quick spell on Seiya, but Alulu had already done it ahead of time as per Seiya's instructions. Rista observes that Seiya is displaying his typical cautious behavior once again. However, she suddenly realizes that Seiya did not utter his usual catchphrase before they departed. This realization causes her to worry about whether their usual routine will still unfold as expected. During the escalating battle, Seiya makes a brave sacrifice by employing a technique he acquired from Valkyrie. He strategically severs his own arm to simultaneously sever the arm of the formidable War Master, leaving the War Master in a state of shock. Finally, he defeats the War Master by delivering a decisive blow with one of his sword attacks. The positive aspect is that after the battle concludes, Rista successfully reattaches Seiya's arm. Seiya humbly suggests to Rista that she should also consider healing Rosalie's father. Rosalie declined to take care of her due to her father's betrayal. However, Seiya insists that she should take care of him before he passes away. However, Rosalie responds angrily, stating that he is not her father and that he is a disgrace to the Empire. Seiya slaps her once more, emphasizing that after her father's passing, he won't be able to hear her even if she screams. He urges her to communicate with him before it's too late. As a result, Rosalie is able to hear her father apologize for his actions and express his love for her before he passes away. Later, it is reported that the War Master passed away due to old age, and Rosalie takes on the responsibility of ruling over the Empire. After these events, Seiya, who had been resting for 3 days, finally wakes up and gathers his group. He informs them that before embarking on their mission to confront the Demon Lord, they will take some time to enjoy themselves. Rista and the shorties are excited, so they decide to go shopping for some items to celebrate later in the evening. Meanwhile, Seiya is observed departing the city by himself. However, when the appointed time arrives for the meeting, Seiya is conspicuously absent. Despite searching the entire city, they were unable to find any trace of him. They made the decision to seek assistance from Ishtar. However, upon their arrival at her office, they were taken aback to find Arya in tears. She leads them to the room where the souls of the gods are stored, where Ishtar awaits their arrival. In a straightforward manner, she informs the group that Seiya has ventured to the Demon Lord's castle alone. Rista protests, arguing that it is impossible for a cautious hero like himself to go alone, especially given the potential danger of chain destruction that could result in the loss of his soul. The goddess Ishtar explains that Seiya went to fight alone in order to protect them. Right from the start, despite his attitude, he always prioritized their safety. In addition, she explains that Seiya no longer requires any further training, as he has already reached his maximum level since their visit to the Dragon Village. This is the reason he concealed his true power. He felt distressed as he realized that he couldn't become any stronger. He knew that with his current level of power, he wouldn't be able to defeat the Demon Lord. At this moment, Rista discloses to Mash and Alulu that Seiya never possessed the Ixasian sword, and currently he is also without the armor. Ishtar explains that Seiya decided to learn the lethal skill of the Valkyrie, known as the Gate of Valhalla. Rista explains that Valkyrie initially declined to teach it, but Ishtar contradicts her by stating that when Rista interrupted them in the room, they were actually completing the aura destruction ceremony. Ishtar further adds that Valkyrie ultimately decided to teach him after witnessing Seiya's unwavering determination to save the world. Rista is left wondering why Seiya acted in such a manner, prompting the Supreme Goddess to reveal the truth about Seiya's past life to her. Seiya was actually summoned as a hero by the goddess Arya a century ago. He had a group of friends, and one of the most remarkable individuals in that group was a young princess named Tiana. Interestingly, she was also his partner. During that period, Seiya displayed notable differences in his demeanor. He exuded confidence, appeared more relaxed, and consistently approached challenges with a proactive mindset. He did not possess a cautious nature. When they confronted the Demon Lord of that world, Seiya barely managed to defeat him, or so he believed. The Demon Lord was reborn because he didn't verify or investigate how his powers worked. With 2 lives, he went on to kill his companion, the goddess Arya, and, tragically, Tiana, who was pregnant with his child. Arya begins to cry, feeling responsible for the events that unfolded in that world. Rista's emotions overwhelm her, and tears begin to stream down her face. She discovers that she is the reincarnation of Princess Tiana, and unknowingly, she has chosen Rhea. However, through her newfound knowledge, she regains all of her memories. Ishtar explains that even though Seiya doesn't consciously remember these memories, the feelings of regret are deeply ingrained in his soul. When she called upon him, those feelings materialized as a word, which happened to be properties, the word he uttered at the start. Upon observing the situation, he realized that he had been previously summoned, but unfortunately, it had resulted in failure. Despite Arya's attempts to dissuade her, she ultimately decides to assist Seiya with the backing of the 2 Dragonkin. Despite it being against the rules, Ishtar decided to overlook the fact that she opened a portal to the Demon Lord's lair, as she was impressed by her unwavering determination. When they reached the Demon Lord's castle, they discovered that Seiya had already arrived and was using Valhalla's gate to defeat the Demon Lord. Unfortunately, the situation takes a turn for the worse as the Demon Lord unleashes his full power and makes a desperate attempt to break free from the cursed gate. Seiya attempts to use his sword to push the Demon Lord back into the gate, but unfortunately, the sword proves ineffective as it is not Ixasian. Seiya persisted and continued launching a relentless series of attacks. He took the Rista doll, which was made using her hair, and used it to synthesize the sword with the spikes of Valhalla. Using the sword of the underworld, he successfully vanquished the Demon Lord, causing the gate to fully consume the defeated entity. After finally defeating the Demon Lord, he begins to bleed profusely due to the recoil from using Valhalla. He questions Rista about her violation of the divine rules by entering the demon lair directly. However, she emphasizes that saving him takes precedence over discussing rule breaking, as his survival is crucial for him to be able to return to his world. Seiya didn't mind, as long as he had defeated the Demon Lord. In order to heal him, Rista calls upon her divine power and declares the divine order. However, Ishtar cautions her that she has violated a rule, and is now at risk of breaking another rule within the divine realm. Ishtar further explains that if Rista continues down this path, she may face severe penalties, potentially even losing her goddess title. Despite this warning, Rista remains resolute and declares that she is unconcerned about the consequences and is willing to accept any punishment that may come her way. As her divine power reaches its peak, she starts healing Seiya. Despite the bleeding continuing to reopen, she successfully heals all of Seiya's wounds, bringing immense joy to the entire group. In the story, Rista attempts to kiss Seiya, but he firmly rejects her and pushes her away with a punch. Yet, Alulu suddenly realizes that the cursed gate has not disappeared. Suddenly, the gates begin to open, and the formidable demon lord emerges once more, driven by a relentless desire to annihilate the world with a devastating final assault. However, in order to ultimately defeat the demon lord, Seiya opens an even larger gate that imprisons him. The gate provides reassurance that the demon king is finally gone for good. Seiya, after successfully defeating the demon lord, sadly begins to experience a decline in his health, ultimately leading to the loss of his own life. Rista attempts to heal him, but instead of improving, his condition worsens at an accelerated rate. The gate emphasizes that it cannot save him once more, as Seiya must face the consequences of his actions. Despite pleading with the gate to rescue Seiya, it is unable to do so and gradually disappears. The shorties suggest returning Seiya to the divine realm, but Rista informs them that he will vanish if she ceases to heal him. Before departing, he expresses his gratitude to everyone for their unwavering support in assisting him throughout his struggles. He embraces Rista tightly, and just as his body fades away, he musters the strength to summon Rista back to him. He expresses his gratitude for being able to rescue her this time before vanishing completely. After everything that has transpired, Rista finds herself compelled to depart. She takes a moment to bid farewell to the two individuals who have recently enlisted in the Imperial Cavalry Order, their noble purpose being to safeguard against the forces of evil. Despite receiving respectful and grateful farewells from everyone for saving their world, our goddess still experiences sadness over the death of Seiya. Upon her return, she immediately senses Seiya's presence and hastily makes her way to his room, hoping to find him there. However, to her disappointment, he is not present. She experiences depression. Later, Arya approaches Rista to inform her that she has been summoned to face the consequences of her rule-breaking actions. As Arya prepares herself, she assures Rista that she will ensure her punishment is not too severe. As they make their way to the council room, all the goddesses they have encountered make an effort to cheer her up, except for Midas, who behaves strangely and seems to be searching for her next victim. In the council room, Ishtar congratulates her for successfully saving Gibrand. However, she also imposes a punishment on her, which involves the task of saving a world-ranked SS. Furthermore, it is the world in which she perished in her previous existence. Arya, who is witnessing Rista's punishment, admonishes the great goddess for imposing it upon her. She highlights the impossibility of saving the world, as it has already been conquered by the demon lord and transformed into a demonic realm. She expresses her intention to seek help from Rista instead, but Ishtar declines her request. In addition, the punishment prohibits Rista from utilizing her healing powers in that particular world. Consequently, she will be unable to assist the hero she has summoned. However, Ishtar maintains her belief that Rista will indeed be able to save it. Arya was still feeling angry, but she managed to calm down when she realized that she had been raising her voice at her superior. Ishtar explains that when Seiya used the second Valhalla's gate, the effects of chain destruction were nullified. This implies that Seiya's true essence has not been extinguished, despite the fact that heroes who are unable to save a world are not able to be summoned again. In order to preserve that particular world, the great goddess makes a special exception. Suddenly, a paper descends from the sky, revealing itself to be Seiya's record. In this situation, it is evident that all of his abilities have been significantly diminished. This time, she observes the remarkably cautious nature reflected in his personality statistics. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.